Thank you for joining us this afternoon on Indivisible with John Stubbins. I'm your host, John Stubbins. Welcome, America. You know, for 4 years now, we've had Adam Schiff lying to the American people over the Steele dossier, the Crossfire Hurricane mess. As you know, we had Carter Page on the show last week diving into it, or at least what we could tackle. Since then, we've found out that Bob Mueller and his team have wiped their phones conveniently, and Adam Schiff now picks up the Russia hoax once again. He's deciding that he's going to continue to perpetuate this lie to the American people. On top of that, he has been trying to disenfranchise and wipe away the votes of over 63 million Americans that voted for President Trump in the 2016 election. And he's trying to do it again. He's been lying to Congress. He's been lying to the American people. And, we've just had about enough of Mr. Adam Schiff. I want to bring on a man who is running against Adam Schiff. And I want to welcome to the show congressional candidate out of California, District 28, Eric Early. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thanks for having me, John.
Proud to have. I see that you've got early radio stations, KABC, KRLA, and CRN in your corner. How's that going out there?
You know, it's an amazing thing, John. I was never a radio host before this campaign, and after I got past the primary, I got contacted separately by 3 different radio stations asking me if I wanted to host a show on each of their stations. So I have one's called my last name's Early, so one's called the Early Edition. That's on a great Salem radio affiliate out here, KRLA, AM 870, and then I'm on a KABC affiliate out here, AM 790, and that's on Sunday evenings. Those shows are both live. The one on Sunday evening on KBC is called The Latest with Eric Early. And then I have CRN Digital Talk Radio Saturday afternoons live. We post all these on the campaign website. And the one on Saturday is called The Early Report, reporting from the belly of the beast. And so it's really fabulous, and I really enjoy doing it. And thankfully, I'm getting my word out, my name out to people all around Southern California. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
you're doing an amazing job. I've been really doing my research and following what your campaign is doing. By the way, Eric moved to California in 1986.
Yeah,
from New York. So he was originally a New Yorker, and I've lived in New York and California, as my audience knows. So I can definitely be on par with you in that discussion because I know what it's like living on both coasts. By the way, Eric is a managing partner at Early Sullivan, which is an amazing law firm and probably one of the top law firms in the country with over 30 attorneys. And their focus is on business, entertainment, real estate, title, and escrow related litigation. And by the way, you were a candidate in 2018 for the California Attorney General slot against Xavier Becerra, right?
Yeah, that was my first ever run for political office, statewide race. I got in really towards the end of the race. I just wasn't a fan of who was running. I can't stand Javier Becerra. We ran, and by the end of the race, and we were only in it for not too long, we ended up getting almost 1 million votes statewide in the state of California. So that was an incredible experience. And
I saw that. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, think about that. How many people could say their first time running that they got that many votes? That's actually incredible. Really, really kudos to you.
Thank you.
I know that you have over 500 volunteers that are on the ground. You got a strong ground game out there. Momentum is growing. You've got Democrats, Republicans, independents that are coming to the forefront to not only pray for you, but have promised to vote for you because they've had it with the nonsense out there. And they're rooting you on. They're really rooting you on.
You did your homework, man. You're not kidding around. You know.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And these are people, a lot of them that have come up to you and let you know that they don't even normally vote.
Yeah. We're out here. We're in the 28th District of California, which for your viewers it's a large piece of southern LA area, really. Sunland, Tujunga, parts of Pasadena, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, Glendale, Burbank, Silver Lake, Echo Park, Los Feliz, Hollywood, Hollywood Hills, and West Hollywood. It's a large chunk of the Southland here, as we call it. And the percentages are not favorable to Republicans. Unfortunately, there's a big surprise. And so this is an uphill battle, no doubt. Plus, we're going against this national disgrace named Adam Schiff. And unfortunately, there's a good chunk of this district who thinks that I was going to say something, call him a name, but I'll refrain. They think he walks on water because, there's a lot of folks here, they hate the president. I support the president. And the people that hate the president think Schiff walks on water. But, we are reaching out. There's no secret that, to win this race, I need to break away a bunch of what we call the moderate Democrats and a lot of independents out here. Thankfully, I've got the Republican vote, the conservative vote. But there are a lot of people in those other, categories, moderate Democrats and independents, who support law enforcement.
Yes.
Who don't want to defund law enforcement, who don't support these savages that are rioting and looting and what's going on out there, who can't stand the fact that we've had a congressman out here for 20 years who has abandoned us. We got 66,000 people living on the street here. It's hard to wrap your brain around.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of problems here. And yes, we're starting to hear more and more from people in those other, voting categories that are saying they're going to vote for Eric Early. So,
yeah. And look, your campaign has raised over $2 million.
Yeah.
And you've done that with the support of small donations from over 30,000 people, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to give you kudos for that as well.
Thank
and
you.
You've been endorsed by the California GOP, the Los Angeles GOP, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, former Governor Pete Wilson, LA County Supervisor Mike Antonovich, and
Antonovich,
and also
in these parts.
Former District Attorney Steve Cooley.
He's a legend in these parts too.
That's an impressive list of and look, Adam Schiff, we know
a lot of other.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, a lot of other great ones too. Ken Calvert is a congressman, great congressman. Tom McClintock, another great congressman, and all the other great organizations and such. I even have Pat Boone's endorsement, John.
That's a great endorsement.
There you go, bro.
I love Pat Boone.
So do I.
And on top of that, you look at this, you look at the work that you're doing, strong ground game, and we've got Adam Schiff, like you said, he's abandoned his constituents for over 20 years. The guy's living in Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay. He's not even in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He's in Maryland.
Yep.
So, for him to get up in front of the cameras on a podium and continue over and over and over again to lie to Congress, to lie to the American people, I think the American people have just about had enough of Mr. Adam Schiff.
Well, John, certainly people like us have had enough. I can't stand him. I don't know him personally. I don't have an ounce of respect for him. And the only compliment I ever pay him is that he's the most talented liar I've ever seen in my life. And there are millions of people like us who think the same way around America about Adam Schiff. He's a national disgrace. He's a liar. He's a leaker. As you well said at the beginning, he's been trying his best to disenfranchise 63 million of us who voted for President Trump. And so in so doing, this guy Schiff, who claims he's always there to uphold the Constitution, right? He's trampled all over the Constitution. He could care less about our right to vote. He really is just a national disgrace. He's done tremendous harm to our country,
to
our nation, both domestically and foreign. He has now set the bar, for example, the precedent for impeachment so low. Good luck to any future president to avoid impeachment because of what Schiff and these insane people in his party did to President Trump in that impeachment sham. So, I don't like him, Schiff, obviously. A lot of people don't. And so I've just gotten amazing donations, support from around America. People go to www.ericearly.com. No donation is too small. And they send me their donations and their comments. And, we're marshaling as much as we can to buy TV airtime and the advertising needed to make a go of it against this guy Schiff out here. In fact, we're in the midst of preparing those TV commercials as we speak. And so I'm incredibly grateful to our country's amazing. You know that, John. And there are patriots all around America, millions and millions of great patriots. And one way for them to show their anger for this guy Schiff is to support me. And it's been tremendously gratifying.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, I've got all of the contact information scrolling at the bottom of the screen for Eric and his campaign, Twitter, his law firm, all of that, his email, so that you can contact him, get involved with his campaign, whether it's making phone calls, ground game, financial contributions to the campaign. Make sure that you get involved. We have to send Adam Schiff packing. Yeah. We've had enough. I want to touch on something that you alluded to just a couple minutes ago in reference to the homeless problem. I know it's one of your main priorities, and I'm going to get into that list here in a minute, but I want to hit that one first because especially in Los Angeles and San Francisco, Sacramento as well, these homeless campers, like you said, 66,000 of them. And look, we've got rats, feces, heroin needles, blood, urine, all coming together to form a toxic brew that's seeping into the water out there. And if people think that we have a crisis now with this pandemic, the ramifications of that hitting the water supply, I don't even think we've discovered yet. I know there are several doctors that have been looking at it and that are on that case, but there are going to be ramifications because of these homeless encampments and what's being perpetuated.
It's really hard to describe really what we have out here for people who thankfully don't have to live around this stuff. But we have everywhere you go. There are tent cities all around the Los Angeles County area. It's sickening to see. This is in epidemic proportions out here. 66,000, like I said, is the latest count in LA County here. It's been getting worse and worse. And, I've been saying for years, many people have been saying for years, this is a health disaster waiting to explode. Now, here we are in the day and age of COVID. And this is really one of the sort of fascinating things. And I don't really know what to make of it yet, but these folks are not social distancing. These people don't wear masks. These people are living on top of each other. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you believe the Politburo up in Sacramento, which is what I call it, because it's been one party rule for years and years. And if you believe some of the things coming out of the LA County Democrats, we're wall-to-wall Democrats out here, then one would think these homeless would be dying in droves by the tens of thousands because, we're told COVID is so terrible. And well, thankfully, they're not dying in droves. Nobody wants them to die in droves. But what does that say about what we're being told about COVID and how dangerous it is when they're making most of us in our state of California live still on a form of lockdown? I mean, I've lived my life, and my fiance and our friends, we've all lived our lives for 5 months, frankly.
Yes.
We don't buy into any of that, the garbage that they've been feeding us. But businesses are still closed. Restaurants in LA County are still closed, can't eat indoors, and on and on and on, because of what they're telling us about COVID, and yet it does not seem to be impacting the homeless population. So either it's not impacting the homeless population, which means what they're telling us about the how terrible COVID is just flat out false, or it is seriously impacting the homeless population, and the officials here are not telling us about it because they have failed us so terribly with homeless. They've been telling us for years how they were going to deal with it, but it's just more of this Democrat and mainstream media over control of what we're dealing with out here. But regardless, Adam Schiff could care less about homelessness. This exploded on his watch. I've got a plan to deal with it when I get to government. I could go into it if you want to hear it, but it's something that nobody out here is doing, much less thinking about.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, and I'll just say this. When you lie, you've got to remember what you lied about so that you can cover that lie and that lie and that lie, and it builds, right? And so the Democrats have lied to us so much about the homeless population, about COVID, about sanctuary cities, about the border issues. So when you get into all these lies, they don't know whether they're coming or going anymore, because there's been so many lies perpetuated on the American people that they can't cover one lie to the next.
Well, John, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you totally on that. And I'm an attorney, and I defend people in depositions, and I tell people don't lie, because once you go down that road, it's impossible to get out of that road. Just tell the truth.
Yes, exactly.
But as you know, John, and as I'm sure so many of your viewers know, the mainstream media lets these Democrats get away with it. They don't hold these people accountable. In fact, these Democrat politicians, they keep doubling down on their lies, and the mainstream media keeps doubling down with them. And so there's no accountability for them. And we got to break that mold. And that's what I'm working hard to do with respect to this guy Schiff. So let me tell you what I'm planning to do with.
But before you get into that, let me just ask one question.
Yeah.
And this is of California, Los Angeles residents, and the American people in general. My question is this. If you find out that the Democrats have been lying to you for 50 years, okay, especially we'll get into race relations later, but whether it's race relations or all these other lies that we've discussed, if you find out that they've been lying to you, wouldn't that make your blood boil? I mean, just a little bit, that you've been used.
Well, listen, John, it's made your blood boil. It's made my blood boil. It's made a lot of great Americans' blood boil. But there's approximately half the country, we have this split right down the middle, that their blood does not only not appear to be boiling, they seem very much to want to see it continue.
That's because it hasn't. That's because a lot of these problems haven't maybe hit their doorstep yet. But once it does, and they find out that the Democrats, they're going to put it two and two together. People aren't stupid. They're going to say, you know what? They lied to us. And that's why we're here.
Well, I want to hear. Go ahead, buddy.
I was going to say, I want to hear, though, I didn't mean to go off on that. I just want the American people, specifically Democrats in Los Angeles, to at least consider that you've been lied to. Is it a possibility? I want to hear your plan.
Well, getting back first to what you just said, I sure hope more and more people out here are fed up with being lied to. I do believe, going back to what I was talking about before, I do believe we're making inroads with the moderate Democrats and those no party preference, what we call independents out here, that are sick of being lied to and realize they've been lied to by Schiff. Now, as far as homelessness, and this is something I'd want to get together with all the experts on when I get into office. But for starters, all you have to do is walk through these homeless encampments, Skid Row and such, and you don't have to be a psychiatrist to know that most of these people are severely mentally ill. Yeah. So it totally does away with this notion that these Democrats have taxed us into oblivion out here for. They've taxed us $2 billion to build housing for the homeless. The billions have disappeared, by the way, into the system. That's what always happens with these taxes out here, because the state is so in debt and was so in debt before COVID ever hit. But even if you could build those structures, build everybody a nice condo, you can't give most of these people, if you give them a key, here's your condo for life, they can't take care of themselves.
Right.
They're hopelessly, severely mentally ill. So what I would do is first of all, when I get to DC, I want to do what I can to start working on rebuilding our nation's mental health care system from the ground up.
Yes.
It was torn to shreds, the mental health care system, devastated, ripped apart, starting in the 1960s. And that was a time of Camelot, and they thought they were going to build these neighborhood mental health clinics. Between that and the drugs from big pharma, they could control this and take away from being dehumanized, or whatever they used to call it, in these big mental facilities. There were movies that came out that portrayed what was going on in them as horror shows and such. We need to rebuild this mental health care system from the ground up. We need huge mental health care facilities again, with properly staffed. But there are hundreds of thousands of people out there severely mentally ill around America. I'm not talking about household, what one would call, mental illness, slight depression or something. If anybody's ever known somebody severely mentally ill, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we need to rebuild that from the ground up. I would do that, in at least my initial thinking is it should be a public-private partnership, because we're going to need that private funding to come in and help do what I'm thinking needs to be done. At the same time, out here in California, this would have to be a federal state. We'd have to work together. Me from the federal government, folks here from the state government. There are vacant lands, federal and state lands, all around the state of California, as they are all around America. And on these vacant federal and state lands, massive piece of property, there are abandoned structures and such. We can start by sprucing up these structures. Doesn't have to be anything beautiful. Put a roof over these folks' heads. Give them heat to the extent necessary. Build huge lines of like really high-end tents, not these. Yeah. And for the severely mentally ill, they get brought to those areas with mental health care. For those with severe drug problems, they get brought to those areas with drug problems. And for the very small percentage that is unfortunately living on the street because they simply can't afford housing, but don't have those problems, we have to get them away, and those folks and their families away from this other stuff I just described, and move them to areas where they can be. And one of the things we have to work around is there are laws now that say that if somebody doesn't have a place to live, they actually have a right to live on a street. But I've been studying other states, other jurisdictions that have worked around that body of law, and I believe we have the ability, and we should unshackle law enforcement's hands. I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement, by the way. Yeah. And we start immediately taking these people off the streets, whether they want to or not. Many of them won't want to be taken off. And there's ways to work within that body of law I just described to start putting them in these areas I'm talking about. It's not only for these people's own health, but it's also for the health and safety of our neighborhoods here, because these homeless encampments are moving in all over the place, right into neighborhoods. And it's for the safety of our business community as well, because they're building up these encampments right in front of many small businesses. But John, for starters, you got to start with a congressman who actually gives a damn about this stuff. And my opponent could not care less. All he cares about is getting on MSNBC and CNN and the Washington Post and every one of those, far left outlets, and dreaming up hoaxes against Donald Trump. I mean, the guy, I firmly believe Adam Schiff is demented. I think there's something very sick about him.
Look, you came from New York, so when I say this guy, you know what I mean by that, right? This guy.
You got it.
This guy's got to go. And by the way, in relation to the homeless, the mentally ill, and I agree with you on this plan, I would add one thing. And I actually got into this conversation yesterday with Buzz Patterson, and he agrees with me as well. That
Buzz, a great guy, great
guy. And I'm Air Force as well. So
Buzz and I are already talking about sharing an apartment in D.C. if we both manage to get there.
Nice, yeah. I just want to add though that the one thing that's critical in a plan like that. And using the legal system to do it is also that for some mentally ill, like you said, they don't want to be taken. Some of these people don't even want to leave the street. They want to live in a tent on the street.
Yeah,
but that's not good for Los Angeles County. And on top of that, I think that our mental institutions, we need to not only bring them back, but we need to have the ability that if someone is not willing to go voluntarily, we need to be able to commit those people to the facilities, whether they like it or not, for not only their own good, but for the safety of the public.
John, you and I see eye to eye exactly. We have to be able to, in certain instances, with some folks who are just a massive danger to themselves, to their families, to the society at large, we have to be able to involuntarily commit some of these severely mentally ill to these mental facilities that we're talking about now. No doubt about it. Listen, let me give you another example. You know, with the mass shootings, okay? Listen, I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. When those mass shootings happen, there is never a doubt that the person who pulled the trigger is somebody who's severely mentally ill. And if we had these kind of mental health care systems in place, chances are those things never would have happened. For example, a kid opened fire in Florida a year or two ago. Everybody in that school district, the higher ups in the district, many of the kids, many of the families knew that that kid was nuts. Okay? They knew
way ahead of time.
Way ahead of time. And what happened there and what happens now in everyday life is when you have somebody like that, there's nothing you can do with them. The only thing you can do with them, maybe there's some exceptions, is you can get what's called a 5150, which I'm sure you know what it is. It's a 3-day hold, a 72-hour hold in a facility, and then they're back out again.
Yep.
And if we had the kind of mental health care system that we used to have, that I'm suggesting we have to have, that kid would have been isolated in that school district of Florida and committed to one of those mental health care facilities long before the death of so many beautiful children down there.
Sure.
Those shootings, for example, I don't think about guns. I think about the mentally ill and how we got to do something about them. And that's the issue.
Let's take an example, and it doesn't even have to be with guns. I just read an article earlier that the one of the guys that had set one of the fires, that are raging through the state, the guy gets arrested. They let him go. They release him, and he set 7 more fires.
I read that too. Well, that's not only severe mental illness, that's this criminal's paradise that has been created. I call it a criminal's paradise that's been created out here in California. That was an example. Part of the criminal's paradise is they don't give anybody bail anymore, except for the most heinous of crimes. So that guy that was picked up that you just described was let out on bail, and he did it all over again. We got huge problems with the criminal justice system out here. That's another big issue for me. So
yes,
well, I'm saying things, John, that the people in control in this state don't want to hear. The mainstream media out here don't want to hear. But there are more and more people like me who've had enough of this stuff. I'm not a politician,
That's right.
I run a great law firm. I've got a great family. I don't need this politics in my life. But I got fed up, so I stepped up. And all these issues we're talking about are festering out here in California. What they've done to this state, these Democrat elected officials, I don't have anything against people, however they're registered to vote. Republican, independent, Democrat, that's not my gripe. My gripe is with the Democrat elected officials. They have left their voters behind. And it's time for the voters to start thinking, we got to right this ship. But I firmly believe, and I say this often, and I say this to the people out there listening who are watching your show all around the country, because I know people look at California and say, what the heck? What happened? What's wrong with these people? There are millions and millions of great conservative Donald Trump supporters in the state of California. You would never know this by the mainstream media. There are millions all over this state. And I absolutely believe, I believe firmly that the worm is going to turn again in this state. I don't know exactly when, but it's going to be a lot sooner than people expect. And we're going to take back this state and we're going to rebuild it from the ground up. Yeah.
And a lot of it's just common sense, right? I mean, people look at everyday issues that affect them, whether it's in their schools that their kids go to, whether it's hospitals, whether it's open borders, sanctuary cities, things like that. And then they see the homeless problem. They see the mentally ill. They see the fires burning. They see BLM and Antifa doing damage, looting, rioting, burning, assaulting people, and people, most people just want to live the American dream, or at least try to achieve it.
Yep.
They want to work. They want to have their family. They want to spend time with their friends, but they want to do it in peace. And we're not getting peace. And I want to move on to rebuilding from the destruction caused economically, mainly by COVID-19 in California with the shutdowns. I want to talk about that briefly before we move on.
Yeah, well, another big issue, obviously, all around the country here as well, is, businesses are gone. Thousands of businesses are gone here in my district, largely, frankly, because of these policies out here in the state of California that I've been so much against. I firmly believe that much of California's businesses, jobs, everything else could have been opened up beginning of May with the social distancing and stuff. In fact, I have little doubt it could have been done and could have been done safely. It would have saved thousands of businesses from going under, thousands of jobs, would have prevented this terrible rise in depression and suicide and spousal and child abuse that's been going on because of these lockdowns. But of course, Newsom, the governor out here, I call him the empty suit, and the others running it out here, I believe, I think it's pretty obvious by now, they have a political agenda, and part of that agenda is to keep everything locked down until this election, to do whatever's possible to destroy President Trump. But so we have thousands of businesses gone under. We have hundreds of thousands of jobs gone. I've been a practicing attorney 27 years. I work with all these stakeholders. I work with everything from employee groups to bankers and lenders and insurers and developers and contractors and people who own buildings and lease out space to people who lease out space and buildings people own and everything else. And when I get to DC, I want to roll up my sleeves and work with all these groups, all these stakeholders in our district to do whatever we can to start rebuilding from the ashes of COVID, because the ashes are all over the place. We're living in devastated communities all over the place. So much money is gone from government. Like I said before, this government in California was run so poorly, it's been really financially bankrupt for many years, regardless of what they have been telling us. And now with this COVID and everything that's had to been spent from the government resource, I mean, there's no money here. The federal government's, they spent trillions. There's no money there. And so we're going to have to figure out creative ways to get this going again. But it's a big issue for me. Yeah, I've got the talent and the skill set to deal with this, and I care about the people here. And my opponent, who lives 3,000 miles away, does not have any of those talents. He does not work well with people, okay?
No.
He's clearly one of these, as I said, demented type of people. Adam Schiff should be locked in a back room somewhere in the swamp, dreaming up hoaxes. That's sort of his skill set.
He needs to be arrested for treason is what he needs to be.
Well, I'll tell you, buddy. I have referred to him as a white-collar criminal before. And he's committed criminal acts, frankly.
Yes.
But he hides behind congressional immunity and the protection of the mainstream media. And this criminal actor, Adam Schiff, continues to do what he does. But it's very bad. But yeah, so that's another big issue for me out here. We've got to do it. And Schiff has none of the skills, the desire, or anything else it takes to work with these great people out here and to get us back.
Yeah, and that leads me kind of into my next segue with taxes and regulations that are strangling Californians. And I'm sure that part of your design on how you're going to fix this and your plan is going to revolve around loosening up those regulations.
Listen,
bringing those taxes down.
John, I run a business. I run a law firm of, we have probably about 40 people or so here. I sign the front of a lot of checks every 2 weeks. I am so anti-tax and so anti-overregulation of business. I will do whatever I can I support the president so much in what he's done in terms of deregulation, unlocking the talents and the greatness of America. You know, the entrepreneurial spirit of America. Let the entrepreneurs do what entrepreneurs do. Create jobs, create business, create wealth, drive this society. I will do everything I can to support that entrepreneurial spirit. That's the spirit of America. And it is completely the opposite of what these people who are running our state right now do. They hate business. They treat business like we are enemies. And that's why so many of them run and flee from the state or never come. They treat the job creators as if they are enemies. It's unbelievable how upside down things are out here. But we're going to get our hands back on this again, John.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next subject and talking here.
Yeah.
These social justice warriors, these anarchists,
Well, let me jump in there, man.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt. See, I'm a radio host, so I like to talk. I'm a radio host now. Let me boil down why I ran, why I got in this race. I could boil it down to 3 words. I love America. I love America deeply. And I saw a combination of 2 major things that I just got fed up, so I stepped up, as I said. One, I saw this Joker Schiff lying to my face every day about President Trump, telling me he colluded with Russians. I knew President Trump never colluded with Russians. How did I know that? Because common sense, as you say. I don't need to see, intelligence. Obviously, he never did. So he's lying to my face every day. He's lying to millions of Americans, along with the mainstream media. Pissed me off. Other reason, I firmly believe that, and I've been saying this for a number of years now, that we're in a battle of good versus evil in America.
Yes.
And, this evil has set foot, has taken hold in our great country. Communism and socialism are evil.
Yes.
And yet we have anarchists, communists, socialists coming out of every single crevice and crack around, and they are making, we're now in a major internal battle in our country. And, somebody told me this the other day, and it's so appropriate. He said, Eric, when congressmen and senators take the oath of office, they say they're going to defend the nation from enemies foreign and domestic.
That's right.
I never thought about that. And domestic. We don't think that way. We have enemies, domestic. We do have foreign enemies, absolutely. We have domestic enemies now.
We do.
Our elected officials are sworn to uphold the Constitution and protect our nation from these enemies. And so many of these enemies are now starting to infiltrate the Democrat caucus. It's a problem. And so you were talking about education. So where is all this stuff coming from? It's another huge issue for me. You get these savages in Portland, these ones trying to rewrite history, burning police precincts, tearing down statues. This is what happens when you send your kids, unbeknownst to us, to these 20-year indoctrination camps, which turn out to be their public schools.
Yep.
And this is what's going on around America now. Our public schools and some of our private schools now have become these Marxist indoctrination camps. The teachers' unions are totally radicalized, teaching these kids this filth. And what happens is the kids have come out of these 20-year indoctrination camps, all the way K through college. College is terrible what they're teaching in most colleges. That same group has now populated the mainstream media. That same group is populating the Democrat caucus. That same group is repopulating the teaching ranks of the schools. And it's this self-perpetuating cycle of communism, frankly. They know exactly what they're doing. Those people are relentless. I've been representing for over a year now a great group of citizens in Santa Barbara, about 2 hours north here. We're suing the Santa Barbara Unified School District and one of these social justice warrior organizations they paid over $1.5 million of taxpayer money to come and indoctrinate the kids. We got the materials. Anti-American, pro-socialist, Caucasians are the reason for all evils in the world.
Yep.
Anti-faith, sexually insane stuff. This is going on in countries, not in countries, in school districts around our country. It's a huge issue for me. I'm big supporter of school choice. I'm already developing my thoughts on how I want to deal with this, because I basically, at least for the big cities and the large suburbs, I've basically given up on our public school system. It's terrible what's going on there.
Yeah, and let me get into that and into that for a minute. I'm going to make a couple points here, because I've been following this story very, very closely, and it started in Los Angeles. So this is the breeding ground for this. So as bad as they've been indoctrinating our kids for many years, now they want to make it even worse. Okay, they want to kick it up a notch, right? So they're bringing in books like White Fragility that teach. They basically, with this book, they want to shame white kids in front of the black kids in the classroom. And you don't believe that America, you don't believe that that's racism. Okay. Number two, the 1619 Project, which is being countered, thank God, by, amazing black leaders like Bob Woodson with the 1776 initiative. But we need to get that into the schools, because this is nonsense. And I thought we did away with discrimination. I thought we passed laws during the civil rights era to eliminate this. President Trump, just 3 days ago, had to come out because our United States Army, our FBI, our nuclear scientists they've basically been mandatorily sent to these white guild conferences. And President Trump said, no, we're defunding that now.
Well, thank God, President Trump sees these issues very clearly, and he's not shy about doing what needs to be done about them, which is why these people on the other side hate him. And as I know so many of your viewers know, and I'm sure you know, John, President Trump is the dividing line between, our great country and these savages that are coming out of the woodwork. And, you wonder why. Look at all these white kids now they're guilty about being white. It's the most ridiculous thing. I mean, it's insane. But it's from going through these 20-year indoctrination camps, being taught some of this stuff that you were just talking about. It is sick. And I'll say something else. This BLM and all these crazies, they love telling us how we're all the racists, right?
Right.
We're not the racists. The most racist people on earth are these people on the far left.
Yes.
That they eat, breathe, drink, sleep, think, talk racism. They're the racist people we have ever seen in our lives. And they are not going to tarnish us, and they're not going to call us all the names to try and shut us down. You know how they try and shut us down? They're not shutting us down anymore, John. We're getting tired of that stuff. What I say often when I'm speaking to audiences, we're Americans, and no one's going to shut us up.
That's right. That's right. Now, my friend, Mark Joseph, he's getting ready to start shooting the Reagan film down in Oklahoma, but he produced an amazing documentary that was out at theaters in this past December called No Safe Spaces. And it
deals with my TV commercials, bro.
Okay. All right. So
I know that. Yeah.
And if you saw No Safe Spaces, or to your followers or to our audience, people that know, look, Adam Carolla, Dennis Prager, they hosted this, and like you said, the crescendo here is the college campuses, but now it's all the way down to the elementary school level.
Yeah.
So we have to stamp this out. This is racism, but it's not the racism that the left is telling you that it is, and the fake news mainstream media. It's actually racism against white people. We have to let people know this, because if not, this is going to be the thing.
Yeah,
the thing. Forget the pandemic. It'll be the thing that destroys this country.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I believe what's going on in our schools is one of the most dangerous threats to the nation. And we are witnessing it right now, what the results are. Again, the Portlands, the Chicagos, the New Yorks, the Seattles, the LAs, where all of these crazies have gone nuts. And so many of them are kids you wouldn't think would be doing this stuff. And of course, they're the most brainwashed of the bunch. And, for example, this Black Lives Matter outfit. And before I get into that, Dennis Prager has endorsed me, and I was actually with Adam Carolla about 3 nights ago, and the folks that produced that movie do my TV commercials. So they're great, all great people. And but this Black Lives Matter outfit, I would never in a million years support Black Lives Matter. And I just want to be clear about that. Black Lives Matter, capital B, capital L, capital M, is really a company. And it's essentially a company of race hustlers that have followed on the lessons they learned from the Al Sharptons of the world. And they are extorting tens of millions of dollars from major corporations and high net worth individuals, et cetera, who are terrified of being tarnished with the word, the label racist.
Right.
But Black Lives Matter is comprised of communists, anarchists,
Marxists, Maoists,
people who hate America, people who have set churches on fire, people who have defaced synagogues. These are sick, evil, and angry individuals filled with rage. Now, I, of course, support Black lives. I knew Black Lives Matter for the last 4 decades, John. I don't need some savage millennial who's had his brain sucked out of his head yelling in my face about how Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And I support white lives, which you're not supposed to say out here in Los Angeles, by the way. And I support brown lives, and I support Asian lives, and I support Christian lives, and I support Jewish lives. And, if the BLMs of the world have a problem with what I just said, they can kiss my you-know-what. And, more and more Americans have to, I know the vast majority of Americans agree with what I'm saying, regardless of how they are registered to vote. And we have to be strong because we got to be tough with what we're going to be facing the next few years, but we cannot be afraid. We cannot be afraid, and we cannot be silent.
No doubt about it. And I got to tell you that if Americans don't wake up, we're going to have a real big problem on our hands, and it will hit your doorstep. And then you'll say, well, what do I do? Okay, well, now's the time to get involved. Now's the time to speak up and say something. You can't tolerate this. I want to move on because we've got a little under about 12 minutes left. But I know that you have a huge event tomorrow, a prayer vigil coming up where you're going to be with Joe Collins, Joy Vila, Rhonda, and LAPD. This is going to be a prayer vigil for the LAPD, the officers that were shot. And that's a huge deal. That's a 3-hour event, prayer vigil. Tell us a little bit about that event.
Well, it's going to be out in front of the hospital where these 2 injured, these brutally injured sheriff's deputies are being cared for. And thank God the word is that they will recover. I mean, their lives will never be the same, but the word is they will recover. And we're going to be having a prayer vigil with the folks you just mentioned outside that hospital. And, it's a prayer vigil for them, and it's a vigil to support our brave men and women of law enforcement, because they are under attack in every way you can possibly imagine.
They sure are.
And we have to stand up for them.
Back the blue.
This is going to be from 9 a.m. to noon California time, down there in Linwood, California. That's Joe Collins' district, where he's running against Maxine Waters.
Yes.
But we got to support these brave men and women of law enforcement now more than ever. And just yet another example of how really pathetic these quote unquote leaders in this leaderless state of California are. We do not have one major elected official, not the empty suit Newsom, not our Attorney General Becerra, who's the top law enforcement officer of the state, not this worm of a mayor, Eric Garcetti, here in Los Angeles, not my opponent, Schiff, who's the worst of the bunch. Not one of them has come out and supported law enforcement since day one of the savagery that's been going on for months now. Instead, they've all gotten on their knees, supported the defunders. I want to increase funding to law enforcement. I've been saying that for months too.
Yes.
So this, And unfortunately, this savage that opened fire on those two great officers the other day, you know,
Looks like we might have lost Eric. Well, hopefully he will sign back in here in a minute to the broadcast. Let's see if we can get him back. Eric, can you hear me? That's okay. I want to add on because we're starting to run out of time here. But Eric's parents were legal immigrants. They came to this country. Eric's dad, he fought in the Korean War with the Marines as part of the Chosin Reservoir campaign, and he returned home back to the United States with a Purple Heart when he decided to raise his family. And Eric is coming from a family that understands the American dream, what hard work gives you, the pride of hard work, okay, and achieving that dream, but not having anything handed to you, actually earning, actually going out and achieving the American dream, not being entitled, okay, like so many of these young people are. And they want everything free and handed to them when their fathers, their grandparents, their great grandparents, people that have come before them, they didn't get anything free. And they certainly were not given a free ride to go to college. This affirmative action nonsense. It's led to where we are in so many ways because of the fact that people just feel entitled, that they're going to get this free and that free. And, the government owes me this, and, the white man owes me that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Looks like we got Eric back. I'll bring you back now, Eric. Lost you for a second there. So if you could hear what I'm saying, basically, your parents came here as legal immigrants, which is the American dream, the way that it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
We have 700,000 to 900,000 legal immigrants that come here every year. And those people will tell you that they don't want an open border. It's like Florida right now. We have President Trump down there, and he's doing well with Hispanics, like 16 points higher than he did in 2016. And the reason for that is Hispanics don't want open borders.
That's right.
They don't want sanctuary cities like you see in LA and San Francisco. They want people to come here legally. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to come. And I think most people use common sense and agree with that. That's the right way. It's the legal way. And otherwise, we dilute our jobs for the American people, the people that deserve those jobs, that have lived here and paid taxes. It's not fair to them, nor is it fair to the legal immigrants like Eric's family that came here legally. And by the way, your father winning the Purple Heart over in the Korean War, I want to thank him from one veteran to another. We blessed him. God bless him.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But, when you're the son of a Marine who was in combat, some of that rubs off. He was a pretty intense guy. He thankfully got home. He came home. He made it home with a Purple Heart. And that was a very intense battle that he was in. And both my parents instilled in me a tremendous love for my country. And it's really, at the end of the day, why I stepped up, John, like I was saying before, because we are now under attack by people who want to turn this into a Venezuela, Cuba type situation.
Yes.
And we will never let that happen. But we must be vigilant. We can't sit around and watch this happen. But one thing I've suggested on one of my radio shows is I have proposed the one-way AOC tour of Venezuela and Cuba. AOC can lead the tour. I know a lot of people will chip in to help pay for all the savages in Portland, Chicago, the ones here, all the BLM types who hate America. Throw Bernie Sanders in there. One-way ticket to Venezuela and Cuba. Their utopias. Let them go. Let them have the time of their life and let them live that, that great life that they think they're going to have. They don't need to come back. And this is one thing I also say, John, listen, the proof is in the pudding about the greatness of our country. None of these people who are telling us how terrible our country is, how we're all racist, et cetera, are leaving the country to go.
That's right. Else. That's right.
But there are millions and millions and millions of people all around this world who are looking at America as the last beacon of hope, that are dreaming, they're scrimping, they're saving, they're doing whatever they can to get themselves and their family here to live the American dream. And
that's right.
And we have to maintain that American dream, because not only must, for all of us and our families and our kids and our future generations, have this great America, this shining city on a hill, but the rest of the world needs to have this shining city on a hill too.
Yeah, and I'll say this, because when you bring that up, you take someone like Ilhan Omar. Okay, we rescued Ilhan Omar from Islamic terrorism, where it was a war-torn country, no running water, no nothing. We give her a lifeline, bring her here, and how does she repay us? She tries to instill Islamic jihadism, stealth jihad in our government, and we need laws to stamp that out in our Congress.
Whether Ilhan Omar knows it or not, she's trying to turn us into a second Somalia. And we're never going to let that happen. And by the way, that's another thing I have against my, spineless opponent Schiff, is that every time the Ilhan Omars and the Rashida Tlaibs and all the rest of them utter the filth out of their mouth, Mr. Big Shot Schiff, he's such a coward. He runs under a rock and hides. He never says one word to counter anything they say.
No. And by the way, I want to say this on Eric's behalf, because this is not something that he would say himself, but Eric's going to take a pay cut. You see how President Trump, he gives away his check every month to charity. He doesn't even take a paycheck like Obama did. Okay. So here's the deal. Eric is going to take a massive pay cut to go and represent you, California, Los Angeles, to do the will of you, the people there that don't want this crap. And to do that, I give kudos to Eric for stepping up and doing the right thing for the American people, because he's an American patriot. And I want to say this. We've got about 2 minutes left. I noticed, and this is kind of a fun thing, and I was envious of it, quite frankly. Your son owns a small airline, not an airline, but a small private jet charter company. And I thought, boy, isn't that really cool? One of the things I've always wanted to do was to learn how to fly. Yeah. And when I saw that, I said, that's really neat. That must mean that Eric gets to travel pretty much.
That's kind of funny, John. First of all, my son is a successful businessman. He started this in his dorm room. He's all self-taught. He has a private jet charter company. It's doing really well. I'm so proud of him. But as I say to a lot of people, I'm one of the I'm one of the people who can't afford his flights. So I can't fly. So for example, when I'm, for example, doing my law practice, I'll have to fly from LA to Reno, for example. And a lot of times you have to take connecting flights. And I would be sitting, in a small airport somewhere late at night and waiting 2 hours for a connecting flight. I'd be saying, what's wrong with this picture? My son owns a private airline.
That's great.
It is what it is, man. Hey,
that's great. But you tell your son that he's got a fan out here that loves what he does. Okay. And I know you're proud of him. I also saw that your daughter, I know you've got 4 kids, but one of your daughters, she toured the world twice with rock bands. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, she's got a real musical talent, and that's something I wish I could have done, but I don't have any musical talent.
Me either.
Yeah, no, I went and visited her on one of the tours out there in Europe, and that was incredible to see her playing out there. And then, of course, my fiance's son, Joseph, is on a major U.S. aircraft carrier as we speak. He's in the Navy.
Saw that.
Yeah, my fiance is a registered nurse. Her dad was in the Navy 23 years. And so, we're huge supporters of our military, of our law enforcement, and of
My
the
I
incredible.
was going to say, my grandfather was in the Navy 33 years. He was in World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam on a sub. And great American. Both my grandfathers. My other grandfather was Army Air Corps, but my dad's father was U.S. Navy through and through. And I admire, as a veteran myself, I admire people that serve their country, that are patriots. And I just want to end the show by saying this: Californians, Los Angeles, the rest of America, make sure that you go to Eric's website, ericearly.com.
Yeah.
Get involved with this campaign. Door to door, on the ground game, phone calls, contributions financially. Do not allow Adam Schiff to haunt us in Congress for one more year. We've had it with him. Let's get Eric over the finish line. Let's get him elected. Eric, thank you so much for coming on my show. We were really proud to have you and grateful that you took the time to be with us today.
John, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
God bless you, brother. We'll be in touch and keep us informed.
God bless all your viewers, and God bless our great country of America. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you. And everybody, I just want to say thank you again for joining us on another edition of Indivisible. And we will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, we've got Mike Cargile coming on. Should be a great show. Until next time, God bless you, America. Make sure that you kiss your family. Hug on them tonight. We're fighting. We're in a war right now. So step up and fight.